Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 10th session of Quantum Conversations. I'm Mert. I've been managing Quantum Conversations for a while now. I graduated from Stanford in March, and I've been a member of the Stanford Quantum Computing Association. I've been running the partnerships there for a while, but now Yosh is doing that. I don't know if Yosh is around right now. Hey, Yash, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am a junior, ending the year, so I guess I'm about to be a senior at Stanford. Yeah, right now, I run the partnerships and events committee. Took that over from Mert after he graduated. Yeah, and we've been working together on quantum conversations for this quarter, essentially, and a little bit of last one.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Yash. And we have Alexi, who started Quantum Conversations. Yeah, do you want to do a little intro, Alexi?
Yes, thank you, Mert. Thank you very much for running this. So I'm Alexei Kravrov. I am now the technical ecosystem development lead at IBM Quantum. So I'm actually kind of got inside after starting this Quantum Conversations as a community organizer. I'm a long-term IBM community partner. And my goal now is to basically foster the ecosystem around quantum. We have this hubs model where we have different universities, government labs. So we have Department of Energy labs. We have multiple universities in Kansas State, in the US, University of Chicago. We have University of Sherbrooke in Quebec. In Germany, we have Iberian Nanotech in Braga, Portugal. We have CASIC in Madrid. We have Fraunhofer in Germany, which we just launched a new computer. We have University of Tokyo. And so the question is really for me, right, beyond the machine, IBM has the best quantum machines and the first available over the cloud, but what's the ecosystem? What are the people doing with them? What are they doing to achieve? How can we help create a community? So it's kind of really great to see you all here because, community, I think, is driving all of this. So, thanks for joining and kind of thanks to the speakers, thanks for Mert and Yosh as organizers. Looking forward to learn more.
Thanks, Alexi. I mean, maybe I should introduce Quantum Conversations a bit too. So we gather on different topics ranging from academia, which is what we're going to do today. And then, for example, we had industry last month. We talked about quantum finance. And I want to just briefly mention that quantum computing penetrates every area that technology is in right now. That ranges from academia to industry, so research labs, startups, big corporations. So after I finished my master's, actually during my master's, I was working at a startup that was focused on quantum computing. Now I'm working for a large finance company and I'm part of their quantum team. So we see quantum computing appearing everywhere across the board. And that's why we try to keep these conversations very, very diverse. And today we have Zeki, who's going to talk about the academic landscape of quantum computing. So Zeki, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for inviting me to this series of conversations. So I'm Zeki Sesker. I'm originally from Turkey. I'm doing my PhD in physics here, but also I'm interested in the science and technology policy studies of quantum technologies. And today I will talk about a bibliometric study that we conducted regarding the academic landscape of quantum technologies. Should I share my screen?
Yeah, just a second. So it would be nice to know our other participants. And
yeah, of course.
It would be great if you can introduce yourselves. Just maybe tell us where you're joining from and why you're interested in quantum computing or quantum conversations, our session. That would be great. So Kiran, can we start with you? I think that's frozen. Let's start with.
Hello. Yeah. I'm audible.
Sorry, you were frozen. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi everyone. This is Kiran, and I've been part of quantum conversation, probably by thanks to Mert and Alexei. It's been a platform where I could learn more. And currently, actually, I'm working in an institute, in an educational institute. And
I think we're losing you a bit, or is it just me?
Yeah, we are losing.
Machine learning, deep learning, and computer vision. But having this, hello.
Yes, sorry, it's like the connection is lagging a bit. I
Okay.
heard deep learning and
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
yeah, it's better now. Maybe let's try again, and if
Oh.
not, you can like type
Okay,
it. And
yeah. I'll just be brief. I've been I'm currently working in an institute like in India, educational institute, university in the domain of deep learning and computer vision. But having been interested in quantum computing, I've been doing like some projects of from my side remotely. So probably quantum conversations has been a platform where I could get more about the domains and what are the current trends and all. So looking forward. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for the introduction. We have a very we have people all around the world here today, huh?
Yeah.
I'm joining from New York. Zeki's joining from Ankara. We have 2 Bay Area participants. Actually, Yosh, are you in Bay Area? Yeah. Okay, cool. Abiskar, can we get to know you?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Avishkar. I'm joining from Nepal, a neighbor country of India. Okay, yeah, I'm a part of One Quantum Nepal. It's basically a chapter of One Quantum. One Quantum is a global organization, and it try to like unite quantum leaders all together and do some tangible works in field of quantum computing and in revolution to the quantum computing. So I am a project head at One Quantum Chapter Nepal, and I'm joining now from Nepal. And I'm high school graduate, just graduated in 2020 from high school. And I'm so much interested in quantum computing. That's why I'm following quantum computing group of Stanford University since 1 year.
Great,
Okay.
great to know.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's better to get in this space earlier. The earlier, the better. Yeah, we're very familiar with One Quantum. Actually, I've been collaborating with Denise and Andre for a while now.
Oh,
I was like also that the One Quantum Africa session. So there's a lot of One Quantum subgroups now.
okay, you were in like One Quantum Africa like meetup. I think 1 week ago. Were you there, Matt?
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't in the meeting. I was at an interview with Farai. They like a speaker series. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, awesome.
Thanks. So we have Saliha. Saliha, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I was just curious about the abstract. I'm joining from Istanbul.
Okay.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And Nathan, hey, nice to see you again.
Likewise, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Yeah. Alive, well, double vaccinated, survived COVID, obviously, and which was a big deal for me, given my age and medical condition, right? So triply glad to be here.
Great.
By the way, are we doing that lightning session at the end?
Yes, Zeki is gonna give a speech about his work now.
Okay, I did something recently that I mentioned in the registration form. I never got a response. I wonder if I can get 2-3 minutes to show it off too, time permitting.
Of course, yeah, no worries.
Okay, cool, great, okay.
Okay, all right, I think we can get started. Do you wanna head the way, Zeki?
Yeah, sure. Just let me share the screen. And it's going to fall. Can you see the presentation? Okay, thanks. So today I will talk about this. It is actually in early access for the International Journal of Quantum Information, and it has been on archive for the last, I don't know, 1.5 years. So you can easily access on the archive version. The journal version is in early access. If you can access the journal, you can check it from there as well. It's the same title, The Landscape of Academic Literature in Quantum Technologies. I'm from the Middle East Technical University Physics Department. I have been working there for the last, I don't know, nearly 6 or 7 years. Also, I have this second master's degree in Science and Technology Policy Department, which is I think it's the only policy department in Turkey that is focusing on technology policy and science policy. And also I'm one of the co-founders of Q Turkey, which is part of this larger network called Q World. And I will also talk about Q World very briefly in the end of this presentation. So the outline of the presentation is the following. I will give you just a very brief background. I will introduce the methodology and what are the bibliometric tools, how we collected the data set, the keyword analysis, the burst detection, the core corpus, and I will present you just a brief discussion. And the background is actually from my co-author, Arsel Aydınoğlu, who is a full professor at the Science and Technology Policy Department. And he did such a work for NASA Astrobiology Institute just a couple of years ago. And while I was taking the bibliometrics course from him, he suggested that, hey, why not we are doing this for quantum technologies as well. So the original title was Quantum Information Technologies, but later we changed it to just Quantum Technologies. And so I think most of the people here know what Web of Science is, or how citation networks work. But to be complete, the idea of bibliometrics is not a new one. It has been around for.
Sorry, I don't know what Did you say Web of Science?
Web of Science.
Web of Science. So I
yes.
For example, don't know what it is.
Okay.
Also, please, if you have like questions, we have like a discussion format. So
yeah, if you have questions, please ask.
Questions like I do.
Yeah. So the concept of bibliometrics is something like this. It has been around for about 50 years. The originator is someone called Eugene Garfield. And the original idea was that to create a sort of a metric that will allow libraries to decide, which journals to buy and which journals to not buy. Because by the mid 60s, there was this, let's say, explosion in science that new journals were coming up, and especially university libraries had to decide between different journals whether they are being useful for their employees or not, or the academics or not. So Eugene Garfield developed this method that if, let's say you publish an article and it has been cited by certain other articles in certain journals, and none of your academics read those articles and they are not using those articles, so you shouldn't buy those journals, because that will be expensive to buy every journal. And this actually transferred into what we know as Scopus, Web of Science. Google Scholar is kind of like that, but it is much less, it is of much less quality. And all the things that we hear, like the H index, the impact factors, the quality factors, all come from this area of scientometrics or bibliometrics, because it has spawned from the bibliometry studies. And for our methodology for this paper, we had our initial query, which is just something we created. We analyzed it. We sent it to some experts in the field. We got some feedback. We devised this new query, analyzed, sent it for final opinion, and then finalized the study. And also on Web of Science, there's this, let's say, option to use highly cited articles, which are articles that are not the articles that have the highest number of citations, but that has been getting those number of citations in a very brief time. So they are considered as hot articles in that sense. And we use two software tools. One of them is called Weaver. I will introduce it at the end. And the other one is also Square Tools, and I will also show you the website of that tool. So the initial query was like this. So we got quantum simulation, imaging, sensing, anything that distinctly identifies as a part of quantum technologies literature, because there's this difficulty when you are using keywords. If you just type quantum, you will get the entire literature that contains the word quantum in either the abstract or title or keywords, which is something you don't want, because quantum is used in other contexts as well. But if you just type quantum physics or quantum mechanics, the articles that you will get are, they can be unrelated to quantum technologies as well, but also they can maybe not include something that is focusing on quantum sensing or quantum circuits or quantum cryptography. And we actually use this initial query, and for the final query, after the expert opinion, it has expanded a little bit. You can see it from here. Also, you can check these keywords in the article as well. All of them are included in the appendix. So initially, we run this analysis for titles and abstract and keywords for articles and proceedings. We got around 41,000 articles and proceedings, and we run an initial analysis. We send it to the experts, and we used 5 expert opinions from our colleagues. And then with their feedback, we used the final query. And with the final query, we only included articles. We didn't include proceedings. And we ran the analysis on 6th of June. I'm giving you these dates because, for example, if you use the same query right now, you will get more articles. But if you limit the date to 6th of June, you will get the same data set that we had. So these kind of works are actually repeatable. So everyone can run their own analysis. And for finally, we actually excluded articles that had either 0 citations or 0 references. So if an article was not referencing any other article, we didn't include them. And if an article had 0 citations, we also didn't include them. We checked whether these 0 citation articles were new, because if an article is new, it will have very naturally 0 citations. But most of them were older articles with 0 citations. So we thought that either they are kind of irrelevant to the literature, or we can basically exclude them.
By citations, do you mean they were cited by other papers?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So let's say you have a paper and no other papers cite your paper, and it has been around for 10 years. Then, I don't know how fair is this, but we thought that they are outliers, or they can be excluded from analysis in that sense. We can discuss whether this is a reasonable option or not. And we found that there had been journals with 5 or more articles from the dataset. There were 495 journals in the dataset. So this is the number of articles. As you can see, there has been a clear increase in the number of articles, and this has been a rapid increase since the early 2000s. And after Shor's algorithm, but especially after early 2000s, the number of articles has been increasing. And also the number of authors per paper have been increasing. So even if you exclude like the major papers with lots of, let's say, authors, even in that case, the number of authors per paper has been increasing steadily. And the mode of number of authors per paper has increased to 3 since 2013, which means that the huge chunk of papers here contain 3 authors. So the field has been becoming more collaborative. for the, say, last decade, or it has been becoming more collaborative since its inception. But this is a general trend in most of the papers and most of the fields. But in quantum technologies, the trend has been actually stronger in that sense. So this is the initial keyword map that we created from our first, let's say, query and 41,000 articles. And we actually sent this to the experts to get some feedback, whether this looks reasonable. Do you see something that is not supposed to be here? And whether the clustering of the algorithm is actually suitable or appropriate. And I mean, it looks more or less reasonable, because most of the red cluster here actually focuses on the physical hardware and experimental aspects of these systems. The green and the yellow clusters are more focused on quantum computing and theoretical aspects. The purple cluster here is kind of more focused on quantum communication, and the blue cluster here is quantum cryptography and usually quantum sensing or single photon based systems. And after we switched to the final cluster, we actually limited the keyword clustering to a 60% version, which means that we only took the top 60% of the keywords. So to get this more clear clustering in the literature. And again, you can see that the physical implementations of quantum technologies form a cluster. The quantum communication, quantum cryptography, and quantum sensing fields form a second cluster, and quantum computing and quantum information science forms a third cluster. And if we raise the keywords to the full version, 100% version, you can see that everything becomes closer to each other because we include all the keywords. But also a fourth cluster can be distinguished here. So the quantum computing cluster and quantum, let's say, more quantum information theoretical cluster gets distinguished, which is something expected because there has been this, for example, quantum discord and entanglement dynamic and quantum phase transition are here, which can also be taught as more information theoretical or quantum information theoretical concepts that are not related to quantum computing. Like quantum thermodynamics is an emerging field, so it is not exactly quantum computing. So you can see that it is emerging, but again, from here, it is more closer to the quantum computing and quantum information science than to physical implementations. As I said, you can see that there are three clusters, quantum communication cryptography cluster, quantum computation information theory cluster, and physical realizations of quantum systems. And as you increase precision, these clusters become more compartmentalized, and you can distinguish, more precisely. And the second analysis we run is called burst detection, which is an algorithm that has been developed like 2 decades ago, and it identifies sudden increases in the frequency of words. It is not a simple frequency analysis. You can check the algorithm. That's why I'm giving it here. Also, you can find it in the references. And we use chi-square tools to generate these bursts or to identify these bursts. And in the software, there's this density parameter. If you decrease the parameter, you will only be able to identify, let's say, stronger bursts. If you increase your density parameter, you can get smaller bursts in that sense. So this is for the lowest density parameter analysis we run. From here, you can see certain fields emerging, and then either becoming mainstream or fading away. You cannot just, by looking at these, you cannot identify whether the field has saturated or faded away. But I will give you another example in just a moment. So here you can see in 1995, quantum computation obviously started bursting after Shor's algorithm. And then, teleportation, entanglement, quantum computer, quantum computing, and following 2000. So I think someone is speaking. Yeah, thank you. And here you can see for 2008, there's this huge burst of quantum entanglement, it's a more theoretical return, quantum optics, then quantum discord, and finally quantum correlations have been bursting in that sense. And for the higher density parameters, you can see the full list in both in the archive version and the paper online. But here are some that have been still bursting at the time of our data analysis. So quantum coherence, simulation, image processing, networks, annealing, steering. One of the things that surprised me was ADS-CFT correspondence here. But when I spoke with my friends that are working in string theory, they basically said that, oh, ADS-CFT is everywhere now. And basic method, or let's say the basic tool of ADS-CFT is dimensional analysis. You can play with the dimensions, increase them, decrease them. And also that has been useful for quantum computing, especially in the terms of quantum error correction and how you work if you are trying to, let's say, an information theoretical question on black holes, then you can combine these fields of quantum information science and these tools that are using ADS-CFT. But as I said, I was not able to, let's say, identify whether a field has stagnated, became mainstream or a keyword, or faded away just by looking at the burst analysis. So I ran my own frequency analysis, and I choose these. I choose to compare these keywords. Here you can see, annealing coherence simulation from the list. Here you can see that they have been bursting, and also from here you can see they have been bursting for quite some time. So the frequency of these keywords appearing in the literature have been increasing. And again, here you can see that these have been increasing, but you can see quantum teleportation is here, and it has not been bursting. And here you can see why. So the quantum teleportation has become mainstream. It has been steadily like around 1% of the literature, or let's say 0.008% of the literature. So it is there. People are using these let's say keywords in their papers, but it has been used at the same amount almost every year. So it is not bursting. And finally, you can see the keyword of quantum computing here. And again, at 2008, 2009, there is this huge spike for quantum computing. I have been discussing a possible reason for this for quite some time. There are many possible explanations of this. Some people say that it's related to funding. Some people say that at that point of time, there was this economic crash, and after the crash, people just tried to publish what they got. Some people say that, oh, it is related to, superconducting qubits, or, you can probably find a lot of explanations for that. So for the highly cited articles on Web of Science, we used the same query and found 808 published articles. And out of these, there were 34 articles which had over 30 citations in this set of highly cited articles. To compare, we looked at their respective citations in the full set of our 42,000 article sets. And here you can see the full list also again is given in the paper. So this is to compare the most highly cited articles in those sets. So this doesn't mean that Nielsen and Chuang has 6,929 citations. This means that out of these 42,000 papers, almost 7,000 of them are citing Nielsen and Chuang. And out of these 808 papers, 113 of them are citing Nielsen and Chuang. So it is the most cited academic work in both of these sets. But the rest of the set is different. For example,
Nielsen. Okay, no worries. It's not the textbook, right? You're referring to the paper.
It's the textbook. It's the textbook. People are citing the textbook. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can see that the most of the papers or the highest cited papers in the curated set are like Spenet, Eckert, Gizin, and EPR papers. But for the highly cited set, it is Kimball, Walraff, Nayak, and Horodeczki. So it's the quantum internet paper of Kimball. It's the superconducting qubit paper by Walraff. I think this is the topological qubits paper by Nayak, and it is the, if I'm not mistaken, this is quantum measures and quantum entanglement paper by Horodeczki. So they differ, you know. For the highly cited works are citing different fields than the field itself. The field itself is mostly citing the cornerstone papers, but the highly cited papers are citing more recent and more transformative. I mean, the papers that are transformative, but they are more recent, not like the original EPR paper. Yeah, I don't know why this is here, sorry. And finally, we, not finally, but at the third level of analysis, we looked at the country level. And here you can see that China has the most papers. This is followed by the US. And if you combine Europe, like Germany, France, Italy, Spain, even if you exclude the UK, the number of papers are almost the same. So it's like 3,000, it's like 10,000 or on that order, like 13,000 papers. So there is no, let's say, clear winner in terms of the quantity of papers. And when we looked at the co-authorship analysis of countries with more than 10 published articles, you can find this collaboration network. And also the software clusters these countries as well. So here you can actually see the, if let's say you published a paper and the author has an affiliation in China and you have an affiliation in Italy, then there's this a single link between you. And as the number of authors that, as the number of papers that have with authors with affiliations in China and Italy, this link is becoming stronger, and the sizes of these nodes are basically the number of papers published in those countries. So in this analysis, Singapore is like, you know, way upward. So I couldn't introduce it to here, but again, you can see the clustering. Like these are the countries that are collaborating with China. These are the countries that are collaborating between, you know, Germany, France, Russia, Spain, UK. So you can check the full list from the paper. And the final analysis was the institution level analysis. So these are the top 12, I think. So I think Chinese Academy of Sciences is kind of an outlier here because at least half of the authors from China have multiple affiliations. So it's not like 3,300 academics are working actively for the Chinese Academy of Sciences that are working on this field. But let's say UCTC has some academics that have affiliations in Chinese Academy of Sciences as well.
Is this formalized against the student numbers in the number of students in the?
No, these are the just the numbers of articles.
Okay, because I mean, like, if an institution has more researchers, it's like then it might publish more articles, right? So
yeah, sure. but this is not a ratio. This is just pure numbers. But even in the case of pure numbers, it is not like Chinese Academy of Sciences have this many dedicated researchers, but most of the people who are working in projects at China have also Chinese Academy of Sciences affiliations. That's something. A similar thing can be said for, I don't know, Max Planck as well, maybe. I'm not that familiar.
Like, I think a very good, like, this came out just by the numbers, and I mean, just by like knowing about the universities, we know like some of the top universities in quantum computing and quantum information sciences are included in this list. So very interesting.
Yeah. Thanks. And we again run this keyword clustering analysis for institutions. And if an institution had more than 150 published articles in the set, so again, you should always note that we are running our analysis only on our curated set. So it doesn't mean that these institutions have many papers or many researchers, but it is focused on this academic literature in quantum technologies. And here you can see that the Chinese universities or institutions are clustered against these other groups, and also I think this is Taiwan. And again, you can see here there are different clusters like Japanese institutions and mostly the European institutions. There is this Canadian and Australian institutions, and there's this American institutions. But I think one of the reasons the Chinese institutions are, let's say, more separate from the rest of the world is the double affiliation issue that I have been talking. So let's say Mert has been working in Shanghai University, but also he has an affiliation at the, I don't know, Chinese Academy of Sciences. So the software considers this as a collaboration because there are multiple affiliations in the paper. So it distinguishes you from these other institutions. But even if that is accounted, still there is clear indication that the Chinese institutions are more collaborating nationally than internationally. So the discussion is, I mean, you can use bibliometric tools to examine the field, and it yields some valuable insights. The bursting topics evolve away from straightforward quantum computation into more diverse areas, especially like quantum thermodynamics, quantum correlations, and I mean more theoretical concepts like ADS-CFT, or I don't know whether it is theoretical or not in that sense, in that particular sense. China, US, and EU, even excluding UK, have similar sizes of contribution to the academic literature. This is only with respect to quantity. We cannot, I mean, we can, but we didn't use a qualitative way to distinguish these contributions. But quantitatively, you can say that these three regions of the world are producing almost the same amount of papers, or produced same amount of papers until the moment we collected our data. And Chinese institutions tend to collaborate with each other more heavily rather than internationally. And you can see the references here. You can check our paper. Also, you can check Kleinberg's paper for the algorithm that we used. And I want to thank you for your attention. But also now I will show you very briefly. So this is the Weaver tool that we used. I mean, you are probably familiar with these let's say interesting visualizations. You can actually use Weaver. It's a free and open source software. You can create these by yourselves. It is very let's say, so it is easy to use. It is kind of memory intensive, so you need some RAM in your computer to actually analyze huge sets. So for example, in my laptop, we couldn't go further than 60,000 articles because it was constantly giving that, you know, out of memory error. But you can use some tricks and use loss viewer, and also for sci-square tools, you can use it, and you can do these burst analysis. You can do other kind of analysis, country level analysis. It is again an open source and free to use software, and the manuals for these are very clear, and you can just look at the, you can check the GitHub page as well. And finally, this is QWorld. We are part of this QWorld organization. It is an international organization with many members around the world. So here you can see our member organizations. We mainly focus on education. We are organizing these Q Bronze workshops, and here you can see a list of these events. And also in just a week, we will have these Q World Quantum Science Days. You can check the website. So we have these events coming up. We have these talks, we have these Q intern projects, we have these training workshops. It is entirely free. Everything is for participants, and also if you are interested, you can just send us an email or look at the website, and we would be happy to talk with you. And I want to thank you for your attention and time.
Perfect. Thank you, Zeki. I saw Alba is one of the speakers in the Q World Quantum Science Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was also a speaker at Quantum Conversations a few months ago.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so yeah, we're opening up to questions now. I want to mention something. So actually, it's tied to a question. But Abiskar, I think you don't have to raise your hand. Just shout out your question. So you go first. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, man. Okay, I have a short question for Zeki. Can you show that presentation, that cited list in listed form? Like institution cited, I think.
Sorry, which one? Institution cited. This one, right?
Maybe 22. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That is institutional level analysis, and you mean the listed institution have many researchers, or many articles are cited by a single researcher?
So this is not for citation. This is for authorship. So let's say you publish a paper and you wrote one quantum as your institution. If there are, let's say, 1,000 papers that use one quantum as their affiliation, it would have been on this list. Yeah, so it is not just a single researcher, and it is not a citation. So here, again, we used for authorship. You can actually do this for co-citation as well. Which institutions are citing each other. But as I said, such an analysis requires a lot of, let's say, computer power in that sense, or you can use R or different kind of analysis, but we were not interested in that. But you can actually do such analysis as well. You can see which institutions are cited the most, rather than which institutions are creating the most. It is entirely doable. You can do that.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Zeki.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to ask about your assumption of like not including zero cited papers, so papers that haven't been cited before. And I have an example. So Lo Grover, the founder of the famous Grover search algorithms, paper in the thesis paper he wrote wasn't cited many times. I think it was cited 2 times or maybe 0 times. I'm not sure. So like, just as a counter example and for fun, like what was your assumption when you just like disregarded all of those papers. Have you looked at like trying to include them where they're like saturating the data and making your data like not meaningful?
So the reason we actually did that was we were trying to find the most productive institutions and how the connections between institutions are formed. But if, let's say, a paper has 0 citations, it can be 2 things. Either it is really new, or it has not created such an impact in the literature. So we decided to leave them out, because if they are really new, let's say we run the same analysis in 2 years, they will show up. So it's not a big loss. And if they are just, you know, in an academic sense, junk, then we shouldn't include them. But if, let's say, so there's this new way of analyzing literature is emerging. It's called altmetrics. So even if you have zero academic citations, maybe people are tweeting your paper. Maybe people are using your paper in presentations. Maybe people are using your paper for open source projects. So the bibliometrics or the scientometrics community is trying to incorporate that into their analysis as well. But the altmetrics tools are not that well developed to be used for, let's say, an analysis like this. So we decided to leave them out. And when I checked the papers, I checked like 1,000 of them very quickly, you know, just to make sure that we are not, as you said, leaving out these seminal papers. I mean, I'm not going to say most of them were, you know, irrelevant, but as you can see that, yeah, they are academic works, but they will not be that impactful, or they will not be that remembered in the future. So it's more, I mean, it's a choice. It's a choice. You can include them as well. It's a choice.
It's not. I guess it's not like it is still a quantitative choice because there are 0 citations, but it's also qualitative, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, probably if we include those, the data will be skewed in certain senses, because one of the things that those 0 citation papers are not, you know, equally distributed for institutions. So there are these certain institutions that have more, let's say, uncited articles, and it is also one of the problems for, you know, things like patent analysis as well. There are this huge number of patents that have been cited 0 times and they have never been used. For articles as well, some people are just writing articles to increase their number of publications, and if it is not affecting the literature in an impactful manner, we thought that, you know, we can just leave them out.
Hey, Matt, Mert, that's an interesting question. I didn't realize that. I mean, Grover's algorithm was like ignored, and then what happened? Like 5-10 years later, it was rediscovered?
No,
It was saying right from the start, no?
I think this was his PhD thesis, so actually irrelevant with the algorithm. I'm not sure, but
it's different than the algorithm. Okay.
Different.
Okay, thanks.
I think so. I'm not very familiar with the history, but I hear one of my professors mentioning this in class. Yeah. So, and also continue with this like trend of leaving some papers out. Are these archive papers or like preprints, or are you just including published papers?
We only included published papers that have been indexed by Web of Science. So they're actually.
So these papers actually passed like a kind of a test, right? They've been peer reviewed.
Yeah, of course. So let's say you use Scopus. So there are these indexes that certain journals can have. So you can be indexed. You know, Science Citation Index is something that Web of Science uses. So if you are indexed in Science Citation Index or the Social Science Citation Index or the Science Citations Index Extended, you know, things like that, you are included in the Web of Science database. So Scopus is actually a more extended database, and Google Scholar basically includes everything. Even certain presentations can be included in Google Scholar. So what we did was to take the smallest, let's say, group of papers that we can find that still is within the field. So we write in the article that, so this is not an exhaustive analysis, but we try to kind of do our best to keep irrelevant or non-impactful papers out, while keeping most of the seminal works in. Because it is really hard, if you are not going through each paper one by one, it is really hard to identify whether an article is really should be there. So for example, one of the reviewers wanted to know, are you sure that all of these papers are in quantum technologies? Maybe there are some other papers that are related here. So we went over almost, if I remember correctly, like 2,000 of them. We randomly selected 2,000 of them. And it turned out that there is this thing called qubit fluorometer being used in medicine fields. And it has nothing to do with our qubits. And there were 8 papers on that in the data set. Even if we tried to limit the with certain very specific keywords, still there were some papers that are not very related. So it is hard to actually get 50,000 papers that have 100% relevancy, and all of them are definitely related to quantum technologies. But our rate was really high. So out of 2,000, we only had 10 irrelevant papers. So we give the ratio analysis in the paper as well.
Okay. Any other questions about the academic part of the study? Well, so I want to talk about industry a bit. I did some.
Hello, Alexei. Sorry, Imad. Either. Sorry.
No, it was
can I ask?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask that, I think Zeki showed the trends, right? Where he tried to cluster all the countries or institution-wise, and all the domains, the recent trends, all of that. So does that the work published in that, right? And the trends, do they match accurately? Is that can we follow that in that way? Or is it the trends that are there and the work that is being published? Like you mentioned about quantum teleportation, right? Going very high, at one time, there was a lot of research there, and after that there was not much. So in that way, do the trends and the work that is being published, can we say that both are in tandem actually? Something.
So if I understood your question correctly, you're asking whether these trends show that the research is being conducted right now, or it has been conducted and it stopped at some point. Did I understand that correctly? Because there was this very brief lag, and
is it fine? Yeah. Hello.
So now I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, almost that way actually. I just wanted to know about the trends, so now, for example, if I want to know the current trend, the current subdomain of quantum computing, which is in demand, do I go towards the papers published, or do I look at the work that is being really done on the ground actually, that way?
Okay, so you can see the list here, right?
Okay, yeah.
So and you can, so for example, here this means that there has been a burst in research in quantum computing like 1998, and it has faded away in 2009. That means that either the field has become mainstream, so it is not bursting anymore, and bursting means that the frequency of that keyword is increasing with respect to increase in other keywords very rapidly. So it has been becoming a trend. It has been becoming very impactful. So here, and you can see the rest of this list in the paper. So the end is not, so these haven't ended, or maybe let's say it ended in 2019, because that's when our data set stopped. So these are the current trends. But as you can see, the newest one is starting from 2016, which means that there are probably other trends that have not bursted enough in the literature that we can identify them. So you are right on both accounts. I mean, if you want to, let's say, catch a, let's say, a tidal wave in the field, you should definitely look at these trends because they represent a field's, let's say, increasing importance. But also you should look at the work that is being done underground, because if only, let's say, a couple of papers are published in a very important topic, then you will not be able to see them here, because this is a very quantitative analysis. It looks at the huge number of papers and it compares them with respect to each other. And even if, you know, we can find a single paper that is very, you know, revolutionary right now, you will not be able to see it by this kind of an analysis. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I just have a brief question, actually another follow-up. That is, the whole study involved quantitative modeling, right? Like almost quantitative analysis. And you did mention about not having, like, not taking into account the qualitative. So in case, let's say somebody wants to further take a qualitative analysis of all the papers involved in like quantum computing or its subdomains or other this thing. So is there any procedure or process that you think of that may be taken? Because that would be too exhaustive to go about for qualitative.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, but the answer actually depends on what you are looking for. So if you are looking for a way to identify new trends, there are some methods that use, you know, the OpenNLP framework, or you can use certain natural language processing models to identify, you know, what is coming next. But as far as I know, there are no well-tested methods that are working right now. So I think the best way to do such an analysis would be to first quantitatively identify the top players in that field, and then go have interviews with them, or semi-structured interviews, or you can use some questionnaire methods. So there is this method called Delphi studies. So what you actually is, you send a questionnaire, you get the answers back, and then you limit the number of answers that people can give. You give them the study, you give them the questionnaire back. You do these like 3 rounds, and in the end you have this very narrow and crystallized answers. So that kind of a qualitative analysis would be much, let's say, better, and it is much well tested compared to these natural language processing methods. Because, I mean, you know that some of those models produce not so very clear results.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it might be also interesting to look at preprints, right? Like following up from Karan's question about identifying current trends, you would be able to like extract some information from there, because there's always a delay. Otherwise, there's always a delay in like getting published and then getting cited. So you are actually looking like a photo from the past when you're.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Archive recently opened their database.
Yeah.
But the problem is this. So in Archive, you can, let's say, you can look at the authors, you can look at the title, the keywords, but you cannot check the citation network. And citation network actually gives a lot of information. So there needs to be more, let's say, streamline or mainstreaming or streamlining the data set that Archive provides. Because the only thing that Web of Science is really good at is organizing the data set. So when you download the data set from Web of Science, it has very clear distinctions, like these are the authors, these are the affiliations, These are the references. These are the citations. So this is the date. This is the journal, and you get this huge chunk of data. So that is the reason why people in bibliometrics use that kind of very well structured data sets. So as I said, you can use Google Scholar as well, but Google Scholar is not that well structured. So in the end, you will have to clear your data set for quite some time, because there are many problems with certain types of data sets. And using preprints is a really good idea, and people are trying that for quite some time. But the main problem there is structuring your data set properly, which takes person hours. So you need some dedicated people that probably you need a project well funded for that, so that some person can spend hours and hours of actually making that data set available for the softwares.
Yeah, I mean, it's a data science problem. You just have to read in the papers and connect. It's a networking problem. It's actually a very cool project. So if someone's watching this right now and thinking about work to do in like data science or network graphs, go to archive papers and read in the citations and try to connect them together. So, okay, I want to briefly talk about how this can be useful for industry. So I did some work for QEDC, the Quantum Economic Development Consortium, about workforce trends. And it was very high level, not in depth like this at all, but it was just looking at keywords and trying to see what people are looking for when they're hiring. So it might be like do you think these tools, the Web of Science tools, are they specific to academic articles, or do you think these kinds of data science tools could be used to identify workforce trends in any industry, not just quantum computing? Because it would be quantum computing is very interesting because it's a very dynamic industry. It's changing a lot. The hiring is exponentially increasing. So do you think this work can be applied to that?
Well, the Web of Science part cannot be, because it is mainly focused on academic publication field. But you can use these kind of network analysis, or you can use the, let's say, burst analysis tool algorithm of Clamber for such analysis. And I think people are using those, but they are not publishing. They are using those internally, or they are using such methods for patent analysis, or maybe, I don't know, for capital investment. I'm not exactly sure. I think you're right. I think such methods can be used for hiring practices or capital investments. But I suspect people are already either using those, or there is not enough data aggregated to be used. Because one of the things you need for these kind of network analysis is that you need a lot of papers. So you cannot do such an analysis with, let's say, 200 papers. I mean, you can, but the clustering would be really terrible. I mean, you will probably get a couple of keywords that are just standing by themselves. So if you don't have like 1,000, 2,000 properly rich, let's say, data points, probably it will not be rather useful to do such an analysis.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a data science problem, just to aggregate the data.
Yeah, exactly.
Aggregation part comes first. I think one quantum has been working on that, or Andre has been working on collecting a lot of data in the quantum industry. Okay, so if we are out of questions, we can move on. Is there anything else for Zeki? Okay, great. Thank you so much, Zeki. This was great, very interesting. We saw that it can be applied to many other fields.
Thanks. Thanks for the invitation again.
Yeah. So Nathan, I think you wanted to present something, right? Okay. Hi, Nathan. Are you still with us?
Sorry, I was talking to myself. I forgot to unmute.
Okay. Go
All right,
ahead.
I was talking to my screen and my cat. Okay, so I'll share my screen. I think you might find this interesting.
Yeah.
Hang on. Yes, there it is. Okay, hopefully you guys see a YouTube channel, Learning Quantum Computing Using Misty States.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, so first of all, let me back up. One of the nice things about this group is, like, you know, in the Valley, we sarcastically call them the 3 Fs: family, friends, and fools. When you first start something, you know, before you show it to somebody, you want to show it to the 3 Fs to make sure you're not making a fool of yourself, because, you know, you think your work is okay, but it's never like that. So that's what's nice about a small group like this. So I just finished doing this, and Mert, you might find this interesting. It's a diagrammatic pictorial approach to teaching quantum computing. And there's some of you people might know about Kirka's book, which is a big textbook, Pictorial Programming, Quantum Computing. But it's a serious, you know, upper undergraduate and graduate level book. So there's another book out that you're looking at here on the screen on the lower left called Cues for Quantum. I'll show you a bigger, see if I can make that bigger. See it?
Yes.
Okay. Any of you guys familiar with this book or Terry Rudolph? The name Rudolph should ring a bell. Let me just do a quick test here. Anybody familiar with
Yes, we're familiar with Terry.
Yeah.
Okay, so he wrote this book as part of, you know, he's not just a good scientist, he's an entrepreneur, but he's also interested in educating the public, in particular high school. So this book has a diagrammatic way. It uses, let me bring this back. Hang on, here we go. Okay, so it uses this idea of these clouds and to explain quantum computing, at least at the fundamental level, right? So the bottom line is I fascinated with the book. And so I put together these YouTube videos, which you can look at later. But I just want to show you, like, perhaps one or a few minutes of one, just to get your feedback, both on his technique and also how this is coming across. Would that work for a minute? If you like listening for 2 minutes?
Sure, yeah.
All right, so let me, here, let's just try this one.
This is a YouTube video inside the YouTube video right now for our
Wow, it's interesting. It's recursive. Let's see if that works. It's still spinning. You guys see it spinning? You see the screen anyway? You see a canvas called Learning Quantum Computing Beta?
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna work, but let's see. Let's see the limits of Zoom. You can also, like, put a link if it's not working, Nathan, under the video.
Pardon? I can't hear you.
I'm saying we can put a link under the video if it doesn't open up.
Okay, what are you seeing right now? That's what I'm asking.
It's just loading. It's not working.
Right, but you're seeing the screen behind it, right? You're seeing the screen? A canvas?
Yes, maybe if you press play, it might work.
I tried that. I'll do it again. Hang on. There it is. Next up are classical gates. You're hearing it now, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Aspect of the canvas, the rather unexciting logistics of becoming familiar with its operations. But now things start to become a bit more, well, thought-provoking. For example, before getting into how each of the 5 gates works, it's worth first taking a global view, since that broader perspective provides useful insights into both the gate's actions and also into how to apply those actions to address a wide variety of real-world conditions. Observing the 5 gates at a high level, we notice something interesting. They categorize in 2 ways. First, according to the action of the gate, what it does. Here we have a knot and swap, the details of which we'll get to in a moment. And second, the 5 gates also segment according to a capacity all gates possess.
Keep in mind, this is for high school students and beginners.
A particular gate's action with a control option, which determines whether the gate activates or not. The result is a more intelligent gate, since now it is not applied every time it appears, but only if certain other conditions are met. You can easily imagine options where you want some flexibility in deciding whether to apply a given gate. And that's what the addition of the extra C hole does in the above 5 gates. Obviously, the more holes, the more conditions a gate has to meet in order to activate, making it adaptable to mildly more problems. You're likely wondering, what's up with the multiple holes? Why 1 or 2? How about 3 or even more? As will be clear in a moment, when we divide into the action of the various gates, the number of holes is a measure of the gate's adaptability to conform to the problem at hand. Clearly, the more holes available, the easier it is to sculpture a specific gate to fit the shape of a problem. Prior to descending from our high-level view and getting into the mechanics of the gates, let us summarize why the division we have highlighted between the action of a gate and its adaptability is beneficial. Permitting controls to accompany gates as they do in the C-NOT, C-swap, and C-C-swap cases empowers the originating NOT and swap gates, in fact, endowing any arbitrary gate with significantly more capacity to model real-world situations. In summary, within these straightforward divisions reside powerful processing capability, as you are about to see as we leave the high-level view and return to gate details. All right.
Yeah, very, very cool, Nathan.
Seriously, it's the first time. Hey, the guys who don't know me, I'm 73. I'm like retired. I'm learning like quantum computing the last 3 years. Mert knows that. So this is the first time I've done a lot of things in my life, but never did something like this. I had to learn, you know, how to put up a channel on YouTube, sites for the video software. But anyway, overall, for a high school person, is it interesting? Is it informative? Honest opinion. You remember, you're the 3 Fs. So radical candor. Appreciate
no, I think it's super helpful. I mean, I wish we had stuff like this when I was in high school.
Well, no high school kid has seen it yet, but okay, continue.
What kind of software are you using? Is it like...
that's an interesting question. Camtasia. It's like the MS Word of video editing software, but it's a legacy package. It goes back to, you know, early Windows days, and it's a steep learning curve. If you know of a better one.
Like my intuition, the first thing I thought about when I saw the diagram was that I want to play with it. Like I want to drag gates around.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, that's different. That's JScript. It's a open source canvas, right? There's other videos that let you do that, and it's gonna be online. So I'll send something out. You guys are most of you guys are on my list that I'll send out.
Yeah, it would be great. Like if these students in addition to these like kind of mini lectures, they could like build their own.
Well, here, let me show you. Hang on. That's a good question. Sorry. Here. You see it now?
Yes.
So I can take a gate. This is, I had somebody help me. Watch. I can drag a gate down.
Oh, very
I can put a ball on top of it, right? It doesn't quite land right, but you know, it's a work in progress. And then it's a NOT gate. So what do you expect to happen? It's going to embarrass me, come out black, but let's take a look, right? Maybe I get lucky. And you go to run, and lo and behold, it came out white.
Nice.
All right. So anyway, we build up, you know, here's a swap. Look. Look. Lo and behold, it's swapped.
Very cool.
I mean, you got to remember, for I'm going to get people fascinated and interested, and you know, and then you can clear it, you know, and do other things. We're working on it, but I'm trying to. Terry's hopefully going to help us with this, right? So he hasn't yet seen this. So this is behind the scenes. Those videos, which are intended to like give you an overview. It's an intro to the to that canvas and some background, you know. And so what it is those are PowerPoint. You know, all those animations, those items that come up, those are done in PowerPoint. You make a PNG out of them, and the video software imports them. Then you turn on its virtual screen and record it. But you know, figuring out all the logistics of that is ordeal. So now that I'm doing it, it's gonna hopefully be easier. But anyway, you think it's useful, right?
Yes,
All
definitely.
right, let me just so you can keep up and give me more feedback. Let me figure out why where I can put a chat in here on I've got the wrong as usual with Zoom. All I see is you guys' faces. How do I get back to where I can put in chats?
Maybe if you stop sharing, that might help.
Oh yeah, that might be it. Okay. All right. Yeah. There's more, but let me give you the address where you can get to it. All right, and then look at it, and then get back to me by email. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to have shown it to you. Hang on, let me stop sharing. That's a good point. Yeah, that worked. Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Great. Okay. Thanks for sharing, Nathan.
Give me
Yeah,
a minute for to type it in before you hang up. Okay.
Yeah. I won't. I'm waiting. Okay. So I guess we can wrap up. Thank you, Zeki, for presenting today. Also, Nathan, thank you for your lightning talk. It's great again.
Right. Sorry.
We are ranging from high school education to PhD level research to industry applications to workforce trends. So our talks include many different fields, and we usually do them at the end of every month on Wednesday. So we will have a few talks coming up, and we'll keep you posted. Our website is quantum.sv. And yeah, Nathan just shared the platform.
Great, thank you.
That's on the chat. Thank you all for coming.
All right,
everyone.
see you next time.
Stop recording.
Zeki, thanks for the talk.
Thank you.